only goes back a couple of years, really. So it's not too bad as compared to Eric. I remember Eric struggling to get things done. But reference to Onken and the buses in Onken there, I remember about 18 months ago, myself and Rob Collister met with Mr. Bates, and I hate to name a person, but Mr. Bates from the bus department met us with a number of residents from Haywood Court to actually try and get the bus coming into Haywood Court, or even Site Matters, which is now Manx Blind Welfare Unit, which is next to the school. In my opinion, there's nothing stopping the bigger buses coming in. And really, the little commuter buses you've got, the grey ones, the Mercs that are lying about there, are even easier to get into people. We have people now who are landlocked in sheltered units and rely on other charities to move them about, even to get out to do's and stuff like that. I just wonder what the Minister has, how much finance she's got anyway, or which he actually asked. We asked Mr. Bates, to be fair, for a trial, and that's not taken place at all, and he's dried up on me, and I think he must have dried up on Mr. Collister as well.
Okay, Michelle
But the same thing happens to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I obviously wasn't party to discussions that were 2 years ago. That predates my time by over a year. So I don't know what the ins and outs of the situation were. We are looking at buses and how buses best serve our community. But what I can tell you is, and your comment about, we've got buses lying around, we don't have buses lying around. We work quite a lean fleet that just about serves the need. We run over 70 routes on the island, and then add on to that all of the transport that we do for schools and for non-emergency patient transport. We have a lot of demand on those vehicles. Any change that we make to the bus network, even just to divert a bus off for a short period of time into another stop, will have a knock-on effect on the timetabling, and then that puts pressure on buses and drivers and rotors. So we have to make those changes carefully when we do. As I've mentioned earlier, we are working on a bus strategy, and it was consulted on last year, and so that will be coming forward, and that will probably change the structure of how we run the routes around the island. But I'm just waiting to see the first drafts of that from officers. So there will be changes coming afoot. I will flag up the access that you've mentioned there and see if there is anything that can be added into that work.
David?
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you for that. A note in from B on the same sort of subject, so you can answer this one. A question for the Minister. Each time I pass the bus depot in Lake Road in Douglas at varying times of the day, there are, quote, a phenomenal amount of underutilised vehicles parked up and presumably depreciating. Has the Minister any information on bus utilisation? Can we get confirmation that no further money will be wasted on new buses when we've got so many sitting doing nothing?
There are times when we genuinely don't have any buses sat there doing nothing. So we have a rolling programme of maintenance on the buses in terms of the regular servicing that they get because of the high mileage they do. We obviously have to put them through testing as well annually, and all of those running repairs that are needed. So we have some buses that will be there because we're being worked on, but the peak times for buses are actually when you've got the school buses running, particularly when you've got the island is busy in the summer with visitors as well. So there are times when the bus network is really under strain. And just because you see buses sat there doesn't mean that they've not been working that day. Drivers are quite limited on the hours that they can do.
Just regarding, but what about minibuses? I mean, there seem to be quite a lot of minibuses.
There are minibuses, and we use the minibuses for sort of two prime purposes. One is that we do the transport for the Department of Education and moving children around, especially children with additional needs that are moved around to particular locations. The other is that we provide minibus service that supports Manx Care and their non-emergency patient transport.
Church of Maloo. Secondly, the proliferation of cat's eyes on narrow country roads, annoying for the driver and spoiling the natural landscape, in my opinion, says Jan. Unnecessary. They're doing a load of work on cat's eyes in the north at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a substantial programme of cat's eyes for last year and this year, mainly because we've had years where it hasn't been done, and it's one of those catch-up pieces of work. Cat's eyes do make the roads safer, and I accept that they might spoil Jan's photographs when she's taking them, but if you take them during the day, the cat's eyes don't really reflect very much back, and if you're taking it at night, I'm not sure how much of a photo you're getting anyway. So without meaning to be too flippant, cat's eyes are there as a safety measure for our roads, and one of the things we're committed to under the road safety strategy is working on safer road systems, and that includes making sure that the drivers are safe, the vehicles are safe, and the road conditions are safe. So those cat's eyes are absolutely needed in those locations.
Okay, I mean, is there any comeback if people say we've got too many signs? Do we have too many road signs? Because we never seem to lose road signs, do we?
No, and there has been some work done about sort of checking signs, but signs tend to go up in response to something happening. So you'll see chevron, like if you look at Shore Road running along by Baina-Carrickey, there's loads of chevron signs up there, but they went up on the bends after there'd been a series of accidents down there to advise drivers. So we tend not to put them up unless we need to, but the size and the colouring on signs is all set down in legislation. It's all in highways guidance. So we can't really vary those. If you've decided there's a sign going up, it goes up at a certain size. We can't change that.
Okay. Mark said, obviously prevention's better than cure if buses are getting sorted. So have we quite sorted out who's responsible for what regarding branches? What's the government responsible for, and what's the landowner responsible for?
So you're waving the little leaflet at me.
Everybody's had one.
Absolutely, everyone's had one. And that was quite deliberate, because when we started realising that there were a significant number of trees that are diseased and are at risk of falling over and causing an accident or injury to people, we couldn't always identify landowners, and we're not always sure until you start probing through land registry about whose trees are what. What we know the law says is that it's the landowner's responsibility for their trees, and that includes even if there are overhanging branches over the pavement or the roadway. What the department has done for years is we've had gangs that go around and have been limbing bits off trees. Yeah. We can't afford to do that. It's the basic thing. In fact, we haven't done it for a few years now. We just don't have the manpower. The department now is smaller and leaner than it's been in its history almost. We just don't have the work gangs to be able to go and do that. And so we are focusing what we do with our limited budgets. We're focusing on what are statutory services, and our responsibility is to keep the highways safe. So we will go and deal with things if they're an imminent risk to the highways, and you'll see that when we've had storms and trees are down, that it's the DOI gangs that are out there, although they will be supplemented by people from DEFA and private arborists and the farmers as well. There'll be lots of people that come out and respond to those things. Our priority in that case is to get the highways safely open again. So knowing that we've got an increasing amount of tree disease on the island, and you can see it, and you can see it as you've been driving around. I'm sure we've all seen dead trees. Yeah. The dead trees are proliferating, and that number's not getting less. One of the ways of us trying to deal with that is to actually remind people of their responsibilities for their trees, and to make sure that they're aware. And we know that it's prompted a huge amount of response from people who, the basic level, go out and have a look, and if you're concerned, get an opinion from somebody who knows about what needs to happen with your trees. We know that the arborists are under pressure, and since we released that leaflet, we were with the team yesterday, and they said they've had over 70 calls from people wanting further information. So we are going to be publishing some more. Some of the same questions keep coming up each time. We are going to be publishing some more information in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Is it an offence if landowners don't do it?
It can be. We are unlikely to prosecute them. What we want them to do is to start taking the responsibility seriously, and to make plans. So part of this is helping them defend. So if you were a landowner and a tree fell on a bus, the insurance company would rightfully say, hang about, that's your tree here and it's damaged my bus. And so you're into a £1 million, claim against you for the damage that's been caused. Whereas your defence as a landowner would be to say, well, actually, I did know that tree was slightly dodgy, and I had concerns over it, and I'd contacted somebody and I'd got the work booked in. You'd actually be able to sort of defend yourself that you hadn't been negligent about it, that you were trying to actively manage the risks, and this is all about trying to manage the risks to people and to vehicles near our roads. Somebody
asked the other day if they've got a tree that overhangs the road, where do they get cones and high-vis vests from? Do they have to buy them themselves, or do they have to give permission, or what?
Yeah, so they'll need if they're needing to work in the road, they need to contact the DOI team, who will issue them with a traffic order that basically means they can work in the road and they can take up the road. But there are companies that can supply the relevant signs and lights and things like that, and they can hire them. They don't have to go out and buy their own high-vis.
Okay, Julian's with us now. Hi, Julian. You're live with Michelle Haywood.
Hi, Andy, and hello, Michelle.
Hello, Julian.
Hiya. A recent local news article states that Rob Mercer, who is the chair of the Environment and Infrastructure Policy Review Committee, his daughter has been given a taxpayer-funded contract through her company Earthscope to sell carbon literacy training to over 400 civil servants, including members of the MUA, for £640 an hour. As you are a member of the Tynwald Standards and Members' Interest Committee, are you concerned that this is a conflict of interest that hasn't been reported in the Tynwald Members' Interest list?
So, thank you for the question. I'm not concerned. If I'm brutally honest, Rob Mercer doesn't have a direct pecuniary interest in his daughter's company, and Rob would have had nothing to do with the procurement of the services of Earthscope, which is the name of the company, to come in and deliver that training. And I'm utterly sure, as all Tynwald members do, that he's completely aware of needing to declare any conflict of interest. It's asked at the start of every single meeting that I chair, does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything that's listed on the agenda? But also, we remind people that if anything comes up during the meeting as an incidental conversation or discussion about a point, and you suddenly become aware that something is straying into a conflict of interest, that you declare it then. And then there are various mechanisms. You leave the room, you can stay in the room and stay silent, you don't have a vote on it. There are various, depending on the level of conflict. So there is quite detailed guidance from Cabinet Office about dealing with conflicts of interest. So I think what you have to do is you have to put this in the island context. There are only so many people to do so many roles. And Rob is a member of the Green Party. You know, it's not unreasonable that his daughter would have gone into a similar field of work, and so you will get some overlap. But I'm really, really comfortable in this space that there isn't a conflict of interest that hasn't been managed in accordance with the guidelines.
Julian?
Well, you see, you've got a couple of things here. I mean, we've spoken recently on the radio about the Nolan principles, and I understand that the question with conflicts of interest is, if in doubt, declare it. So it doesn't appear on the members' interest list. But also, you have this kind of paradox where coming up soon on October the 10th, Rob Mercer will be chairing a meeting with the MUA, who will no doubt be discussing the Caervai upcoming potential wind farm. And those members are likely to have received carbon literacy training at £640 an hour from Rob Mercer's daughter. Do you not see that this is clearly a circular kind of conflict here?
So you keep coming back to the £640 an hour. I've done carbon literacy training, and in fact, I think there's a significant number of members of Tynwald were offered the training and have accepted it. And it's, at £640 when you've got 20 people in the room, it's actually not that expensive per person. So the training is what it is, and I don't think that budget is unreasonable for any training course that has been offered. So that's one thing. Setting that aside, there are lots of people who've done carbon literacy training, and that is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Rob Mercer may well be chairing a meeting with the MUA. They will have done it, but they will have had advice and guidance and training from a number of directions, and just this one doesn't make it a problem. The MUA have quite clearly set out what they're doing in terms of pursuing renewable options, and I don't think that would have been influenced necessarily by any training that was offered by Earthscope.
Okay. What is carbon literacy training?
It's basically understanding it's kind of makes me laugh a little bit because I used to teach environmental science, but it's like a basic understanding of the science behind climate change and the impacts of climate change, and understanding how our actions and how our decisions can influence what the future outcomes are likely to be.
Final word, Julian?
Yeah, this carbon literacy thing, the latest ETHA report has shown that the current report, which was based on the Climate Change Act, that was completely wrong, where he was saying there was a 66% increase in emissions, and now it turns out it's 3.5% lower. You've also got an infighting going on with the IPCC, where they're saying, the scientists are saying that methane is actually 72% less of a greenhouse gas effect than is being reported at the moment, and their new model is being ignored. So if all these things are changing, is it possible that CO2 is also wrong with these models that are being bandied around? Because they're already reversing on methane, and the current report has been proven to be completely a fear-mongering, completely wrong report.
Okay, I'll let Michelle Haywood answer that, then we need to move on because we've got people waiting.
Right, I'm going to push back on this. So CO2 and increasing levels of CO2 are changing the climate on the planet, and that is indisputable. The Curran report is not entirely discredited. If he predicted 66% and actually it's 3% less, that's entirely within the realms of statistical variation, given the quality of the data they had. And the beautiful thing about science is science keeps working and it keeps evolving. And so the Curran report now is pretty dated in terms of the scientific discoveries that have been made and the studies that have been carried out over the last few years. So actually, no, I'm not going to write off the entire Curran report on the basis of some variation in a small piece of data. And methane depends, actually. I think the data on methane has always been a little bit flaky, but it's there as such a small proportion. But, it's fine. If science has been relooked at it and come out with a new conclusion, it's not startling different. It doesn't say methane is not a greenhouse gas. It just says it may be having less effect. And that's fine. That's entirely what we would expect for a scientific discipline.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julian. Good to hear from you.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
24 minutes now before 1, and Eunice is with us now. Hello, Eunice.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eunice.
I just wanted to say something about the cat's eyes, since you've mentioned them.
Yeah.
They're being put around all the roads here in the north, which is an absolute pain. We hate them. We don't want them. They're a complete waste of time. It's a waste of money all the way through. And the other thing, we had no consultation, no notification it was going to happen. And every time you go out now, somewhere along one of the roads, the men have got the road shut because they stick in these bits of plastic in the middle of the road. The other thing, the timing is diabolical. They're doing this at the same time that the mountain is shut. And the people in the north are fed up to the ears with the mountain being shut. You can't communicate. You can't get to the banks. You can't get to the big shops. It's just a nightmare. And now, whichever way I go out of my house, I never know where they're going to be. I come up against road closure.
Were the cat's eyes always there, Eunice, or are these new ones?
Never. We've never had cat's eyes on any of these lanes. They don't need them. I've been here nearly 20 years. You don't need cat's eyes. It's an absolute waste of time. We've had 4 men working for about 4 or 5 weeks every day, sticking these bits of plastic down. I mean, it's just a waste of money. They could have used that money to do something useful, like put some names on some of these roads. None of the roads up here have got a name. They announced something on the radio that a certain road will be shut. We haven't even got there's no names on the roads. Not any roads. The road I live on is called Smil Road. It's a long road, but it's got no name anywhere. And the other thing they talk about is the coast road. Well, the coast road goes from Bride to Ballaugh. So how vague is that? So they could have done something much more useful with this money or given it to the health people.
Michelle Haywood?
Thank you, Eunice. I'm sorry that you don't like the cat's eyes and the work that's being done. We don't have to consult about work that's being done for road safety reasons. The Highways Act allows us to...
Purely road safety?
Yeah, it's a road safety thing. So I take Eunice's point. She's driven those roads for 20 years. Although I know I struggle when I drive up there because it's not an area that I drive frequently. And I have been up there quite a lot recently because we've been consulting about the 20 miles an hour. So I've been visiting various different commissioners' offices. But if you don't know a road, having cat's eyes on it, especially at night, can help you navigate those roads. And some of those roads are very dark up there. They are a long way from street lights. And so there is an issue over helping people navigate those roads in the dark.
That doesn't mean you're going to put street lights up, does it?
No, of course it doesn't.
Because that would be for road safety, wouldn't it?
But your cat's eyes show up in your headlights, and you don't need the street lights to light the road. You can see where the turn in the road is going, just from where the cat's eyes are travelling.
Okay, Eunice.
Right. Thank you. I just wanted to have a say.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Andrew B. in Ramsey says, Question for Michelle Haywood. Do we know the current status of the mountain road closure between Brandywell and the Craig? It'd be nice for the public to know if everything is on schedule. Seems a long time for a main road to be closed that thousands of people use every day. Hope it's going to be perfect when it's finished. Thank you, Andrew B.
And thank you, Andrew, for the comments. So what's happening on the mountain road is that we have some real problems with culverts that are under the road. So we have to lift the whole road surface off to get down to the culvert and to get those properly sorted out, and then to reinstate the road surface over the top of it. I haven't heard from officers that there's been any delays up there. The weather's been reasonably kind, apart from those very rainy days that we've had. So I'm hopeful that it's all still on track.
Supposed to be finished 2 weeks on Friday, I think.
Yeah, well, I'll check that out when I get back. But yeah, they're usually reasonably good at estimating the time that they need. And, you know, barring that we'd had a series of low pressures and storms that would have hit us and would have curtailed work, as far as I'm aware, the work's going on as planned.
OK, MOTs and number plates from James sent an email in. Has the Transport Minister, Infrastructure Minister, looked into having MOTs for cars on the Isle of Man? This will bring in some income for the government. And could the government also look to supplying the hundreds of number plates, if not thousands? This again will bring in revenue. It makes so much more sense as other companies on the Isle of Man are supplying these plates without any sorts of checks and having them made that they're not for the owner of the vehicle, which should be checked really by having the logbook, as they do in the UK and various other countries. It's open to abuse, and clone plates can be readily available. Just something you could look into. That's from James. And also somebody else said, as far as number plates are concerned, can we once and for all make everybody have a standard Isle of Man number plate? Because lots of people have UK-style plates. We have a standard Isle of Man plate. Why doesn't the department enforce it?
OK, so let me deal with the MOTs thing first. So he's right, MOTs would generate money for government, although they generate more money for garages doing the work. What we know from the road safety data is that there are very, very few occasions on which the condition of the vehicle is thought to be implicated in a road traffic collision. And so there isn't evidence that we've got a big problem there. And so it would seem almost draconian to impose a big solution on people. It does push up costs for the motorist, because you will be having to take your car in for an annual check. It creates a whole load of bureaucracy and paperwork in the background at the moment. And you know, the advice that I've taken from officers is they don't see that it actually solves anything, because it won't keep anyone safer on the roads, because the condition of vehicles is not usually the factor in any accident that's happened. OK, and government supplying number plates to stop cloning? I'm not aware that we have a big problem with cloned plates here. I'll check that with the constabulary and ask them if they're
Is it true
aware.
Anybody can walk into somebody who makes plates and just have plates made up without having to identify the vehicle?
Well, you have to give them the number.
Yeah, sure. You have
you don't have to prove that you've got ownership of the vehicle. But then, I got some plates made up for a trailer board, and I just went in and asked for the number I wanted. There is legislation over the size of the lettering and the spacing of the lettering and everything. I think trying to get everyone onto exactly the same plate would mean going retrofitting to 70-odd thousand vehicles.
It's just that we do have an Isle of Man plate that is notable and identifies us as the Isle of Man. So when cars go to the UK, people will notice that's an Isle of Man number plate, it's an Isle of Man vehicle. Mm-hmm. But we also have people who drive around in UK-style plates. It doesn't distinguish the Isle of Man. So surely if we've got a standard number plate, why isn't it compulsory?
I don't know why it's not compulsory, actually. I can go away and ask the question, though.
OK, James, I hope that answered the questions.
Riley's Garden Centre for great gift and present ideas. For all your pet supplies and all the tools and products to get your garden winter ready. Call in at Cool Road Braddon or visit rileys.co.im.
As the nights draw in, it's the season of warm and cosy. Sink into a sofa from Millie Chaps. Curl up with a pure wool throw and let a beautiful rug warm your toes. Then drift away in the comfiest of beds. From Hypnose to Rely-On, Sealy to Temper, there's a perfect bed just for you. Complete the comfort with pillows and a 4 Seasons duvet. Cozy up your home with Millie Chaps of Ramsey.
At Holmes & Davidson Opticians in Douglas, we see more, so you can too. Our advanced eye examinations go beyond the standard checkup, using state-of-the-art Heidelberg 4D retinal imaging and IDON ultrawide field technology to detect early signs of eye disease before symptoms even appear. We're the Isle of Man's trusted experts in eye health because your vision deserves more than average. Book your advanced eye exam today at Holmes & Davidson Douglas. Clarity, care, cutting-edge technology.
Are you a small charity here on the Isle of Man? Are you looking for volunteers, hoping to raise awareness and chasing those crucial pounds and pennies to support your work? Well, Manx Radio can help. You could be our next 1 to 3 Charity of the Week. With daily on-air coverage, podcast and social media promotion, we can help support you and those you help. Just email the numbers 123@manxradio.com and listen out for the feature each weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. The Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
It's 1:45 and James is with us now. Hello, James. You're live with Michelle Haywood from the Department of Infrastructure.
Hello. I just wanted to add my bit about cat's eyes. I've been on the island 70 years. I've always lived in the countryside. I think cat's eyes are one of the finest things that were ever invented. They show the road so well at night when it's misty or bad weather. They're just an excellent product. They really are. And the man invented him. He's very rich, isn't he, from it? But they're just a brilliant thing for night driving.
So you're happy with cat's eyes in the countryside over here?
I absolutely am. Brilliant in the countryside. Well, that's where you need them most, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that, James. Thanks for calling today. And here's Nigel with us. Hello, Nigel.
Hello, how are you both?
Very well, thanks.
Not a bad day.
Yes.
I just want to. I'm Nigel Sperring from Albany Tours and Albany House Bed and Breakfast in Peel, and obviously I have the passion for cruise ships. Now I know it falls under the Department of Enterprise, but obviously the sea terminal falls under your bracket. And due to the fact that the increase in the cruise market throughout Northern Europe over the next 5 to 10 years is going to raise by about 40%, and it's increased my market dramatically. The spend that I have to do through road licence traffic committees and the maintenance of my vehicle and my web page and everything that we put in as a private enterprise person, individual, to look after these cruise passengers and to grow the market dramatically, which, as I say, is increasing, our window is that sea terminal. Now, I've mentioned this on many occasions, and you've got government people that sit upstairs at the lemon squeeze and look out the window. I'd be disgusted if I worked in them offices to sit out and look at the broken glass and all the rust that's coming down there. And if that's our first impressions to look after a cruise ship passenger, then I'm sorry, something needs to be done about it. And I'd like to either meet yourself or a member of your department and actually let's walk the route as a cruise ship passenger getting off the ship. And let's actually come through the area and let's see what our first impressions are. Because if you've never done it, I think you should do, Michelle. And I have a major passion for the business and for the Isle of Man and for what revenue we bring into the Isle of Man, to be let down that we have a sea terminal and we have a new sea terminal on the other side that basically is a booking desk for bringing people on a ferry across. We have these people that spend a lot of money on the Isle of Man and want to come to the Isle of Man. It's going to increase, and we don't have the ability to actually make this side of the island look as good as the other side.
Before Michelle Haywood answers, when you say the broken glass and the rust, this is the old sea terminal that there's the remnants of. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but where the cruise ships come in, you get the small ones come in. Where you park your car and where I pick up my passengers, they come up through the old Victorian, up to where the little shops are now, by W.H. Smith's. We go out into the car park, and the impression that they get, it's appalling.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely appalling.
Okay, Michelle Haywood.
Thank you, Nigel, for the questions and the challenges. And actually, we're not alive, not ignoring any of those challenges. So in recent weeks I've had discussions with the steam packet about the inside of the sea terminal and work they'd like to do. We've been discussing with harbours. I feel like I'm always talking about strategies. There is a new harbour strategy that we're currently working on at the moment, and that's to look at the whole harbour environment. We're also working with Destination First, they've been giving us some advice and some input as well. I do know where the cruise passengers come in, both on the Vic Pier and then onto the pontoon as well. In fact, I've dived under the pontoon, so yeah, I'm well aware of what that looks like.
Is that Victorian, the remnants on the Victoria Pier? Is that your responsibility? Do you own that?
Yes, that's ours, and it's not in a good condition. Yeah. I was discussing it with officers, I think about 3 weeks ago, about, is it protected in any way? Does it need to be there? Do we need some sort of shield? Even with some of the glass missing, it still acts as a shield for the car park and the area along there. And there are certain directions of the wind where you can get a bit of wave action down that end of the bay. So we do need to look at that. But it's not that we're ignoring it. It is just that it's on a very long list of things to tackle.
I think everybody understands that times are tough for Michelle Haywood, but that is a first impression, just like the airport's a first impression.
It is a first impression.
And when people come and see tatty-looking buildings, I mean, I love the Lemon Squeezer. I love that. It reminds me of sort of Soviet brutalist architecture. I think it's great, but it needs tarting up. It needs.
It has been this year. Yeah. So the whole front bit has been repainted this year, and downstairs, in fact, bits that have been painted that weren't actually painted before, they were bare concrete, and so that whole front area and the side sweep around by the car park has all been repainted externally. So it is getting some work and it is getting some attention.
The steam packet pay rent, don't they? The steam packet pay rent to be inside
for part of the building. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, are they complaining about the condition?
Oh yeah, no. We've done so much work with them over what happens at the Liverpool terminal end. They've obviously done a lot of investment over at Heysham as well on updating the passenger facilities there. And then I think it's only last week, we were discussing passenger facilities in Douglas and how to improve those, how to improve the seating and the look, and that it needs a refresh.
Nigel, what do any of the passengers pass comment?
Yes, they do. But Michelle, I'm not being funny, and you're quite right. Some of it, and not all of it's been tarted, and I will say tarted up. You've got panes of glass that have got half a glass in it. The rust is still there. These people pay a lot of money, and I'm going to be sarcastic. If it means buying a few panes of glass and a few tins of paints, I'll buy it myself and actually go and do it myself, because we need it for like next season. These cruise ships pay a lot of money, and I think for an industry and your department that we can waste so much money across the other side on the other soil and let our island look a disgrace like it does. It's an election next year, and if you all want to get in, I think you start to need to pull your finger out.
Okay, can the Department of Enterprise, is any of this come under their aegis at all, or is it purely DOI?
So they are currently running the Welcome Centre, which is in the Sea Terminal building, so they have staff there on site working with our visitors. I'm aware it isn't a good look. It is what we've inherited, and you can thank you very much for offering to put glass in. We actually did. Somebody went and put some emergency red and white tape across the gaps, which looked even worse, and then started shredding, was just chucking plastic around everywhere, and so that was taken down. The problem with putting glass in there is that the metal structure itself has gone. So what we actually need is a scheme to take down all of that and to replace it with something that provides a screen there.
To get rid of the metal?
I think we're going to have to. I think it's beyond sort of being able to repair now. There's some big beams that sit across the top of it between columns, and so we've discussed how safe those columns are and whether we can use those to support new screens in there. But that will be subject to a design and a capital bid in order to do it.
Okay, just to confirm, Nigel, you said that the cruise market's going to increase 40%. Whose figures are those?
I'm on a lot of forums now across on the web pages and online, and up from Northern Europe. Would you believe visitors actually prefer to come to Northern Europe than they do want to go to the Caribbean? And that's where your department, or people within your department and enterprise, need to realise how the growth is growing for the market, not just a few ships. There was 800 cruise ships going around the British Isles this year. They're on the way back to the Caribbean now. And we've hit probably 0.6% of that market, because we have about 60 or 70. So there's a lot more that could come into the Isle of Man. But if we want to grow this business, which Deborah Heather does, and I've got a lot of respect for her because I've worked very close with Deborah, and I think she's banging her head. But I've been 35 years in hospitality. And Andy, you know me, I'm sort of top end scale that I like to look after. But Michelle, if you're going to be like the rest of them, Tim, and just sit on the fence, then I'm sorry, I'm not with it, because it needs to be done now, sooner than later.
Okay, appreciate your points. Thank you, Nigel. Jeffrey said, could you ask the Minister how the breakup of the DOI is going? This was something the Chief Minister spoke about months ago after the trail of capital spending disasters. The future of DOI, I mean, the Chief Minister's often said, in fact, many people have said it's too big.
Reform of DOI project is still underway and still ongoing. So some parts of DOI have moved. For example, port security has gone across to Department of Home Affairs, and the non-emergency patient transport is going to Manx Care. So those two sections have gone. When you look at everything else that the DOI does, and there are some really important parts of DI and some really important statutory functions, if no other department wants to take those functions on, then somebody needs to carry on delivering them. And so actually what I've been doing is, it's not as brutal as saying break it up. What I've been doing is working on how do you get better governance and how do you get better oversight and how do you get better structure. So the first example of that is that you've seen the housing agency, of which the inaugural meeting is on Friday. So that housing agency and ring fencing the housing team so that they're focusing on what should be their core functions, which is delivering public sector housing and affordable housing. That's kind of part of the puzzle, but there will be a move to restructure how other bits of the department work, to try and get it so that there is clearer decision making and that we don't have, Caller mentioned the capital projects thing. Capital projects have shifted significantly, and there's a large piece of work between Treasury and the department as to how those large capital projects are now managed and how the contracts are held. Okay, very briefly, if you would, this one's from Michelle. Have you appointed a permanent Deputy Chief Officer yet and a permanent Director of Highways? We have a permanent Deputy Chief Officer. We still have an interim Director of Highways.
Okay. Thanks for being with us. We didn't even get to 20 miles per hour. So all the messages. So I'm going to ask you, will you come back before Christmas?
I think I'm down to come back.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Michelle Haywood has been with us from the Department of Infrastructure. If you want to follow up on anything, by all means, you can call tomorrow. We've got an open line, or you email manninline@manxradio.com, or call the answer phone on 682-631. Well, I never thought we'd be talking about cat's eyes today, because it's a big department. And thanks to Michelle Haywood for coming in today. Thanks to Harry on the phones, and thank you for being with Mannin Line today. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.